Good afternoon, everyone. Here's our story for today. We ended up with Millie swimming in the lake, remember, and almost drowning, and someone saved her. So now we're back on to Alice. Remember, Alice had the little mean girl incident? Well, now we're back at that, and we'll see what happens in Alice's part today. When I am done, I'm going to have a couple questions on in your email. Okay, so I'll post this on Google Classroom. Check your email, answer some questions, and you're good to go for the day. Hope everyone's well. All right, so here we are. There are flyers all around the camp. Flyers depicting Alice next to Godzilla all over the place. It's really an uncanny resemblance, Jessica said. She looked lovely as always, her hair in shiny waves and pleats of her miniskirt perfectly ironed, her lip gloss beautifully applied, her white blouse was spotless. Alice's eyes were hot and her throat felt tight and burning as she pulled another poster off a tree. She wanted to ask why, but she knew there wasn't an answer that would satisfy her or take away the sting of all of this. Then they'd done this to her because it was people like Jessica. It was all those kind of people that keep themselves on the top of a social pyramid. Every once in a while, they step down from their pedestal and squash the people underneath them just to remind the world that they could. That morning, classes were canceled. Phil and Lori called everyone to the mother tree and stood there in silence, their heads bowed. Lori finally looked up, and Alice was mortified to see that Lori's eyes were filled with tears. I have never, ever been so disappointed, she said. Her voice was croaky and slow, looking over the assembled learners. When you enrolled, each one of you signed a pledge. You promised to respect the individuality and the dignity and the unique spirit of all the other members of the village. This morning, we learned that some of you didn't take that pledge seriously. You have betrayed not only your fellow learners, but your own integrity and spirit in which we founded the center on. Phil rested his hands on her shoulders as Lori continued. I urge the person or people who did this, and I hesitate to even dignify you with the title of person, to come forward now and to apologize, not only to Alice, but to the entire community, and maybe, most of all, to yourselves. Lori stepped back. A heavy silence descended over the group. Alice sat, miserable, feeling as if every inch of her skin was burning, as if she could experience her classmates' scorn and pity. She could see it on them, like it was a physical being or a fever or a rash. After 5 minutes of silence, Phil said, my good friend Jack David agreed to come this morning to lead a seminar about bullying. I urge you all to give him your full attention. Phil bent his head, and a short, bald, sunburned-looking man dressed in a blue shirt and khakis bounded to the front of the group and said, who here has ever felt like they didn't fit in? All morning, Alice sat there listening to Jack David talk about societal standards and internalized self-loathing and a mindset of kindness and how it was all their duty to stand up to bullies. Lori said the center would be sending a letter home to every parent with regards to this unfortunate situation. And Phil once again urged the culprits or anyone with knowledge of the situation to come forward. Alice didn't move. This is what happened, she told herself. This is what happens when you're dumb enough to think that anyone actually really likes you. This is what happens when you let yourself hope. Phil and Lori let her go back to her cabin and spend the entire afternoon there, skipping lunch and her learning sessions and even evening nutrition. Alice lay in her bed with her eyes closed, ignoring Tally and Rhea when they tried to talk to her, ignoring Jessica, who knew better than to even say a word to her. That night, Lori tried to tell her all about the brownies Kate had baked, but Alice wouldn't open her eyes. Tally and Rhea invited her to watch a finale of some reality TV show that they were watching. They'd gotten some special permission to use the TV set in the lodge. Alice just shook her head. I'm sorry this happened, said Tally. She tried to touch Alice's hair. Alice jerked. Just leave me alone. Leave me alone. Okay, said Tally, but we're here if you want to talk or anything. When we're really very sorry this happened to you. She sounded like she meant it, but Alice thought that she and Rhea were privately discussing how they wanted Alice. They warned Alice about Jessica, how they told her that this would happen, how it was nobody's fault but her own. Alice lay in her bed motionless, fists clenched, through lights out. When everyone was asleep, she got up, slammed out of the cabin, and went to the kitchen where she took the brownies and broke the dishes. I don't want to be here, she thought, stomping off towards the water. I don't want to be anywhere. I don't want to be here at all. She'd just gotten herself settled underneath her favorite tree when she heard something. Faint splashing. Then a girl's voice. Help! Help! Alice peered out into the darkness. Maybe she'd imagined it. Maybe this was just another trick, a way for the day that she didn't get to prove herself wrong. She heard more splashing and coughing, and a tiny choking voice saying, help, help. Without thinking, she kicked off her shoes and ran to the water, stroking quickly until she reached the flailing figure. A girl, she thought, although between the darkness and the churn of the water, it was hard to tell. I've got you, she said. I've got you. Immediately, she scooped up the girl. The girl stopped kicking and thrashing, letting Alice grab her shoulders and tow her to shore. So now we know exactly what's happening here. I wonder what's going to happen from this point on. So this week we're going to do a little bit of predicting. I'm going to add something a little bit to each one of your email. So remember, look in your email. This will be on Google Classroom, and look on your email for your questions. You guys are doing an awesome job. I love you guys, and I miss you terribly. Have a great day. Bye.